Yo, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to the locker room. We are here after week 2 of the NFL season. And when I say we, I mean me and Cody Yurkovich. How you doing today, Cody?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good.
It's good to hear. That's good to hear. Not the most exciting week for football this week, but it was pretty exciting for fantasy as a lot more touchdowns were scored and it was a lot higher scoring. Me and Cody had a 184 point to 189 point matchup. What a matchup that was, I must say.
Yeah, definitely. Aaron Jones had a pretty good night for me. James Robinson, first week starting him, he had a pretty solid night. Cooper Kupp's just Cooper Kupp, and then all I needed was Jalen Hurts to not ball out, and he withheld for
He
what,
balled
six
out, just
points?
didn't ball out enough,
Right.
sadly. Honestly, wasn't that mad. I mean, you don't score 184 points in every week and lose. I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, I'm confident in my team, but you got more points, so you won. But now let's just talk some football. So, starting off, we're going to start off with just some NFL news that has gone around so far. Not a bunch of news today or this past week. Only two things that we're going to talk about. Mike Evans' suspension. Cody, I know this does affect you on a fantasy level, but it also affects you with him playing against the Packers. So are you happy or sad about this?
It's bittersweet because he's my wide receiver one. So missing out on 1 week is going to take a dent because now I have to heavily rely off of DJ Moore and Devin Duvernay if he's going to be healthy. So not good wide receiver depth going into this week. But in terms of him playing the Packers, honestly couldn't be more thrilled because Brady's wide receiver one is out. We don't know if Chris Godwin is going to be doing whatever. So it's really just gonna be Brady, Fournette. They'll have Scotty Miller in the backfield, which will probably just be dropping passes, which Brady will just be yelling at him for. So
Brady was mad this week.
yeah,
Mad. So Mike Evans gets suspended. I mean, if you watch the video and saw, I mean, it's deserved. I mean, not only did he like start throwing punches and hitting players, but this is like the third time it's happened with Marshawn Lattimore. So I mean, they're due for a suspension. So not much of a surprise coming from there as it was upheld today, I believe. So it's going to go through. But I mean, Mike Evans suspension, only one game, not that big of a deal. But then the bigger news that came out on Sunday in the 4 o'clock games, we had Trey Lance breaking his right ankle, which is a season ending injury. For the 49ers, this is a huge blow as you spend a third overall pick on him, who really hasn't played football in 3 years. Season wiped out to COVID, sat the bench last year, and now is only played 2 games, not even 2 games, 1.5 games. So that has got to be a big blow for them. And Cody, as a fellow 49ers hater, what are your thoughts on this injury?
I don't want to say I'm happy just because he, broke his ankle because that does suck for anyone regardless. I wouldn't even say he played 1.5 games. I'd say like one and a quarter
Yeah,
because
not even. It was.
I don't know. I'm just not a huge Trey Lance fan, and between the rivalry of the Niners and the Packers, like I don't want to say it's like too big of a blow to them because Trey Lance wasn't that good in the first place, and then they have Jimmy G taking the spotlight now, who is
Jimmy
a
G has looked
very
better.
good mid-tier quarterback, better than Trey Lance, and he makes the quarterback position look a little bit better. So I want to say they're missing out with Trey Lance being gone, but I also want to say that they did not skip a beat whatsoever.
I mean, yeah,
'Cause
I
they did
think
end up walking away with the win. So
absolutely. And I still think that the 49ers are going to be just fine just because Jimmy G, it's not like he's a bad quarterback. He has taken them to the Super Bowl and took them to the NFC Championship last year. He may not be a great quarterback, but he's a quarterback that you can win with. And if that's what it takes to get the 49ers over that hump, then maybe that's what it takes. And maybe Jimmy G, this is his best opportunity to prove to the Niners that he needs to be there over Trey Lance. So it's going to be interesting to see if Jimmy G does have a very successful season and takes them really far in the playoffs, possibly the Super Bowl, if Trey Lance will still be there next year. So that is very interesting. So that is going to be it for the NFL news. Now we are going to go and do not all the games, because not all the games we really paid attention to that much. We watched all of them, just Some games were more exciting than others. So, first game that we were going to talk about is the Jets versus the Cleveland Browns. As the New York Jets came away with the 31-30 victory. And Cody, give us your winners and your loser for this game. And what were your overall thoughts on each team's performance?
So my win for this game is going to be Joe Flacco. He
Joe
led a very good comeback going into near the end of the game between getting them set up for that. I forget what the score was, but they were basically 6 points behind, setting them up for
24-30.
that. Yeah, so setting them up for that point right there, they got the onside kick, and he was able to capitalize on that and once again get another touchdown and a field goal, which brought them the 31-30 win. So I think that was just a really good clutch play by him near the end of the game. Passing yards, this guy's going mad. Like he hasn't started in a decent amount of seasons by now, and he's top 3 in passing leaders for
Oh, wow.
the NFL right now. It's him, Carson Wentz, and Tua. Those are the top 3 dogs right now, and it's craziness. You think, oh, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady,
Josh
Aaron
Allen.
Rodgers, Josh Allen. They're in the top 10, but crap, Joe Flacco's leading the top 3.
You look at these top 3, and it's not people you expect with Tua, Joe Flacco, and Carson Wentz. Those are guys who were all ranked in the bottom 20 quarterbacks last year, and now they're in the top 3 passing yards coming into week 3. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then also got to give a good kudos to the Jets for their first win in what feels like forever. So that's good on their part. Hopefully they can keep that momentum going. They are going against the Bengals, who have not been looking too hot this season, so never know what happens. My loss for that game will be Jacoby Brissett. He's been pretty solid as a Brown starter so far. With that game in particular, he did throw that game-losing interception. Now, regardless, there was only like 20, 30 seconds on the clock. There wasn't really much you could do. Nonetheless, he did shy away the opportunity of them making a comeback win. And I think it was just that final nail in the coffin. But not saying he had a bad performance, but definitely could have escaped away from that.
And another interesting thing with Joe Flacco is how much the Jets actually trust him. Because you look at his few passing attempts, and he threw 44 passes this week. And last week, he threw over 56. So the Jets are having confidence in him. So he must be doing something right. And it is showing on his stat sheet. So he picks up the Jets' first win in a little bit, which is very nice to see. And it's nice to see Joe Flacco back in the mix. I was not expecting that for this year. But for my win, I am thought about Joe Flacco. And no, I'm going to go Garrett Wilson. First round pick out of Ohio State, one of the 2 Ohio State receivers selected in the first round this year. A lot of reasons I'm going for Garrett Wilson is he made some great plays with the ball in his hand, and as well as getting open a lot. I mean, he had 8 receptions, and he ran some great routes, especially that fade to the back corner of the end zone. And he had 2 touchdowns, one of them to win the game ultimately for him. So Garrett Wilson had a great game, had to pick him for my win. And then my L is going to go to Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, this guy, looking at the depth chart, should easily be the wide receiver 2 on the Browns and should be getting reps right behind Amari Cooper, because we've seen talent from him, but he did not show up. I mean, I don't even know if he had a target. He had 0 receptions. Really, really sad game for Donovan Peoples-Jones, and he is going to be my L for this game. So now moving on to Detroit, we have the Lions picking up a 36-27 victory. Cody, give me your win and L for this game, and I think we know who your win is.
Yeah, definitely a really thrilling game to watch. Lions pretty much dominated the entire time, and you love to see that when they're playing at home. And they didn't choke it for once. That is, they went against their typical Lion fashion of throwing away the game after leading for the first, half and an extra quarter. So they kept their deal. They led the half. They came back, let Washington score, I think it was 15 unanswered. Then they were able to capitalize once again, solidifying their win. So that was very good on their part. And the W, obviously, is going to be the star of the show. The one that everyone's going to be talking about this week is Mr. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Had a hell of a game, 2 touchdowns over 150 passing yards, only with 9 targets, and he got 150 plus yards and 2 touchdowns. I think those
with
are
the
really
rushing
good
yards
stats.
too.
And rushing yards to kind of topple on top of that. So I'm loving how Detroit's treating him right now, and I hope that they keep it up for the future. And then for the loss, I didn't have a loss in particular, but I guess I could throw out Antonio Gibson out there. He wasn't really used too much in particular in the game, and it would be nice to see him get used a little bit more. But Carson Wentz, also like I was saying before, is one of the top 3 passing leaders. So it seems like the Commanders are taking more of a passing opposed to a running approach to their offense this year.
I mean, yeah, really shocking from Carson Wentz that he's top three. I mean, his interceptions are up there, but that's always going to be the case with Carson Wentz. So I did have Amon-Ra as my win, but I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go with the rookie, Aiden Hutchinson. Picked up 3 sacks. He was dominant all game. Did have a scary leg injury, which I'm not sure how that's going, but he did come back in the game. But Aiden Hutchinson was just dominant on the line, finishing the play, not overcommitting against the run and against the pass, which is a huge thing. He was staying home and he was making and finishing the plays, which is very nice to see as he picked up not only his first sack, but his first 3 sacks of his career. Then for my L, there wasn't really anyone on the Commanders that I thought did terrible, but if I had to pick a weak spot, it would be the O-line as a whole. I mean, giving up 5 sacks ultimately did lead to some of the punts that happened on those drives. I mean, 5 sacks is a decent amount, but overall, not anyone played terrible on the Commanders' offense. So I'm just going to go with the offensive line there. Now moving on, this is a game I was actually really excited to talk about because someone really did play well that I wanted to talk about. That is going to be the Jags winning a 24-0 victory over the Colts. Cody, give me your win and your loss on this one.
Boy, oh boy, was that a game to watch. The Colts never looked so bad recently, and I don't know how it's going to look for their future. Going into the game, Trevor Lawrence was looking pretty solid, and that is going to be my W as well. I know I was kind of talking a little bit down on Trevor Lawrence in the first week, but it seems like he was able to make a good bounce back. And the Colts were obviously not able to capitalize on his offensive movement. Him, James Robinson, ETN was used a little bit. Would like to see him used a little bit more, but Robinson was doing pretty well. And Trevor Lawrence, that's gonna be my dub. My L is going to be Mr. Stud of the show going into this whole fantasy lineup as Mr. Jonathan Taylor. Very, very let down from his performances so far in these first 2 games. Not really seeing that many ball touches, and most definitely very lackluster on the touchdowns as well as the rushing yards. So for the unanimous decision of the first round fantasy draft pick for what we can say for 99% of everyone's leagues is underperforming to a crazy amount. And I think that the Colts offense needs to get it together. Matt Ryan was not looking too hot, and they just need to give Jonathan Taylor the ball a lot more.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what did he have last game? 9 rushes. Jonathan Taylor cannot finish with 9 rushes. I mean, I get you're losing, but you had to give him the ball some way. That's just not right. Best running back in the league. He's getting 9 rushes a game. Something ain't right there. And I'm going to have the same one as you talked about. Trevor Lawrence. What I'm really impressed by is one big thing. He didn't throw an interception, keeping the turnovers away, but he was 25 for 30 passing. Great completion percentage there. He had 235 yards with 2 touchdowns. And another impressive thing is the time of possession that the Jaguars had in this game. You're telling me Trevor Lawrence completed 25 to 30 passes, threw the ball 30 times. Not that much. But then when you look at it, James Robinson had 23 rushing yards. Travis Etienne had 9 rushing attempts. So that's 31 right there. And then you add another 5 between Trevor Lawrence and Jamal Agnew. I mean, right there, what's that? 36 rushing attempts on 30 pass plays. That's great time management and great ability to chew the clock and make sure that you win the time of possession, which I really have to give Trevor Lawrence credit for. He's going to be my win. Now my L is going to be Matt Ryan. I mean, as I just said, completion percentage for Trevor Lawrence, they were controlling it. They were controlling the time. Matt Ryan was doing the opposite. 16 for 30, nearly having a passing or a completion percentage under 50%. And then throwing 3 interceptions. I mean, partially the reason why the Jags won, probably a big reason because they capitalized on the turnovers. Throwing 3 interceptions, you cannot turn over the ball that much. And then, sure, he didn't have much receivers, but I'm not really giving that an excuse. He's a veteran quarterback. He should know how to work around that. And turning over the ball is not acceptable. So my L is going to go to Matt Ryan. Moving on to this is going to be moving into our later round matchups. We have starting off the 4 o'clock games. We have the Dallas Cowboys defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 20-17. Thoughts on this game, Cody?
So I wasn't watching too much of this game, to be honest, so I can't really have too many takeaways from it. I just know that Joe Burrow choked, and for the second week in a row, he was underperforming like all get out for fantasy. He got me 22 points in week 1 because he was able to make a bounce back, got 300 plus yards, 2 touchdowns. For Joe Burrow, minus the yardage, I think getting the 22 points is an average performance for him. I think that he can bump it up to like 30, being compared to what he was pulling in last year. And in this game, pulled in only 17. I think he got into the mid 200 yards and just wasn't having that relationship with Jamar Chase either because he was having a little bit more of a quiet game. Joe Mixon was doing pretty all right, but the Bengals in general need to get their crap together, and their offensive line has honestly never looked so worse. Going into the Super Bowl and into the postseason, you think that the Bengals would have definitely focused on getting that offensive line strengthened up, and we can see in the first week and second week, the offensive line is struggling to keep Joe safe in his pocket, and it feels like almost every play he's scrambling outside of there or pressure or getting blitzed, sorry. And I just really hope that the Bengals can kind of get their stuff together for their offensive line so that Joe Burrow can continue to be a consistent Super Bowl contending quarterback going forward. And but yeah, going into my W and L's, W is going to be Cooper Rush. I'm not going to lie,
Cooper Rush.
don't know too much about this guy, but first game in as the backup quarterback, seen as Dak Prescott is going to be gone. I was actually seeing something today saying that Jerry Jones was talking about Dak Prescott being able to return as early as week 4, which I think is just nonsense. And he's just
don't rush it, man. Like, why would they rush
the press happy? Like, he's gonna return. Like, if he returns, like at what cost? Interceptions and incompletions left, right, and center.
There's no need to rush the injury either.
Yeah, exactly. So Cooper Rush is the W, and the L is going to be Mr. Ezekiel Elliott. And he's had a very lackluster season so far. He literally saw 5 more ball carries compared to last week and only got roughly the same amount of yards. So if you're getting 5 more carries than what you got last week and your yardage is still staying the same, mind you, this yardage is only at like 50 or 60 yards. That's horrible performance. And they need to, 1, give him the ball more, and 2, he needs to start being a lot more consistent with his carries as well. Because if you're getting, I think he got 15 carries in that game for only like 50, 60 yards, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So he needs to be producing a lot more numbers going forward.
Yeah, I'll talk about Zeke in a minute, but I'm going to start off with my... actually, I'll talk about it right now. Because my W is Tony Pollard. And the reason that he's my W is not because he had a crazy game. It's because of how he outplayed Zeke, which hurts because it hurts and doesn't hurt because I have Tony Pollard on my fantasy team, but I also have Zeke. So it hurts, but it doesn't hurt because you don't know who to start. I mean, Tony Pollard outshined him in every way. He had less carries, had only 10 less yards, 9 rushes, 43 yards. That's a 4.8 yards per carry average compared to Zeke's 3.5. Not only that, Zeke had one reception for -4 yards, while you had Tony Pollard out in the backfield getting 4 for 55 yards. And not only that, he got the big play to get it down to the 1. And what is crazy to me is you have a big body running back like Zeke, and you're on the 1-yard line. Who do they trust to give it to? Not Zeke. They give it to Tony Pollard. And guess what? They score. So Tony Pollard is simply going in my W just because of how he outperforms Ezekiel Elliott. And then my loss, you were saying how Joe Burrow was running a lot and you had him as your L, I'm going to do how do I say this? I'm going to do a impact to him running around, and that is definitely the offensive line. The entire offensive line for the Bengals was not good, giving up 6 sacks, not giving Joe Burrow the time, not giving Joe Mixon any room to run the ball. Really, really not a great look for the heavily invested in offensive line that has been terrible for the past couple of years for the Bengals. Now we are moving on to, oh boy, Raiders versus the Cardinals. Cody, give me your thoughts on this game.
Oh my God, was this a game? Especially into the late fourth quarter. You think, one, going into the second half, that the Raiders had a unanimous win. They had a pretty solid lead over the Cardinals. And after Kyler's week 1 performance, you think that, he didn't really have too much in him. One, was able to get a touchdown and get that 2-point conversion. Might I add, it was a 20-second play 2-point conversion, the longest 2-point conversion attempt in NFL history, might I add.
Oh boy.
That was insane. Literally scrambling back and forth. I think they said he ran for like a total of 80 yards during that play, which is mind-boggling. And once again, was able to get another touchdown and that clutch 2-point conversion to Mr. AJ Green in the very back of the end zone, threading the needle through all the defenders. Almost got tipped, might I add, too, because you see a defender's hand go up when Kyler was throwing that ball, and it was awfully close to it, but literally threading the needle to AJ Green. Don't even know how he did that. Clutched it up, went into overtime, right? And Raiders get the ball. So
the Cardinals got the ball first.
Oh, my bad. So the Cardinals got the ball and then returned it to the Raiders, right?
Yeah, they went for it on 4th down and then they missed it.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah, that was a turnover. And basically, obviously, all this Kyler talk, Kyler's going to be my dub. And my L is going to be, not saying he had a bad performance, but just the situation that he was put in costed the game, and it was Hunter Renfrow.
Didn't fumble once, but twice.
Solid hit. There really wasn't anything wrong with the hit as well. I don't know why they kept trying to review the play afterwards.
Because if they're reviewing it because they thought the defender dropped the ball before they went in the end zone.
Yeah, that's what I remember that they were saying that, but
it looked close. There was a certain replay where it looked really close.
Yeah, that would be horrible if he made that mistake.
Oh, that would have been great.
Hunter Renfrow got the shoulder dropped on him, dislodged the ball, and literally Cardinals took it in for a little tutty dub. And you can't really make mistakes like that in OT when the game is on the line.
Can't make mistakes like that at all. I get you want to fight for yards, but gotta hold on to the football. Ball security, job security.
Yep. Not a bad performance, but definitely costed the game because of that play.
I mean, yeah. That was a heartbreaker, I must say. Up 20-0, and you lose. I'm still in pain. So my win's going to be Zaven Collins. As overall, I mean, the Cardinals didn't play that well, but I'm just giving it to Zaven Collins because he forced the fumble on Hunter Renfrow. I think both times actually. So he's my win. Then my L going to Josh McDaniels. Most people are like, Derek Carr. It's not Derek Carr's fault. Derek Carr, I actually thought, played a pretty fair, good game. And then, but my L's Josh McDaniels. I mean, you're up 20-0, and it's like, you were going, 60 miles an hour, and you took your foot off the gas pedal, and now you're driving 10. I mean, they had no offense. They just wanted to conserve the clock. In like the third quarter, I do not like that. You have to keep your foot on the gas, especially in the NFL. And ultimately, that's the reason why the Raiders lost this game, is because Josh McDaniels got too conservative and too scared, I guess. I don't know. But terrible, terrible loss. And now we have the Packers game getting the victory 27-10 over the Bears. Cody, this is your favorite team, so you can start off.
It was definitely really nice seeing the Packers get a nice little welcome home game at the Lambeau Field. Week 2, after week 1, it was looking a little bit fuzzy, but we know going into this week 2, Aaron Rodgers kind of likes to play a little riddle on us on the first week. Kind of likes to show everyone that he is the worst quarterback in the league to then come around and just go ham the next night. And that is for sure what he did. He followed up with his pattern completely with that 27-10 dub. And it was really nice seeing Rodgers ball out with Aaron Jones in the backfield. Allen Lazard was back. Welcome back, Allen Lazard. Had a great game. And definitely was starting to use a lot more of his veteran receivers. Sammy Watkins was seeing a lot more passes. Obviously not Christian Watson because screw that guy. But Sammy Watkins was seeing a lot more touches, which I was really glad to see. Mercedes Lewis was doing pretty solid, as well as Robert Tonyan. But the star of the show is going to be Mr. Aaron Jones. 2 tutties for over 100 yards, went off in fantasy as well as the game.
Yes,
and he just had a night. And it was really nice seeing that first Lambeau leap of the season as well, coming from Mr. Showtime. So had a little bit of an iffy start to the game, not going to lie. We started off with a field goal, so we got some 3 points on the board. Then Chicago followed up with that Justin Fields touchdown. But once that Justin Fields touchdown was over, the Packers immediately just took off, and it was just a movie from there. So like I was saying, my W, Aaron Jones, and my L is going to be Justin Fields. Not saying that he had a horrible game, but definitely could have performed a lot better. Was looking pretty solid off the rip, but then he started to diminish over time, and the Packers defense seemed like they were getting a little bit more of him. Passing game, the Bears were struggling a little bit more compared to their run defense. It seemed like every other play, David Montgomery was being said by the broadcasters, and that was definitely the case. You saw that guy getting rushes here and there. Now, definitely wasn't able to get the points in fantasy or the touchdowns needed to win the game. Nonetheless, though, Packers' run defense is horrible, and that David Montgomery slipped through the line of scrimmage definitely a lot of times.
I would say it's terrible. I mean, you guys shut down Dalvin Cook.
It's not horrible, but it could be a little bit better because Montgomery was definitely getting some first downs.
Yeah,
but when it came to the end of things, we were just able to surpass the Bears and catch the dub. So that was a really nice game to watch.
Yeah, Aaron Jones obviously is going to be my W. He was very good, but it was bittersweet because I had him in my league, and then my other league, I was going against him against you. So I mean, it was nice to see him get a lot of points, but it was also like, man. And then Jalen Hurts just couldn't get the last 4 points, but it's whatever. So Aaron Jones is going to be at my W, and then my L is going to be Darnell Mooney. He has looked terrible. I mean, give me Andy Dalton the backs so this guy can get the ball. Justin Fields just does not throw him the ball these past 2 games. He's probably had 2 receptions. I'm not even sure if he had a catch. I know he had 4 targets. I'm not even sure if he had a catch. I mean, Darnell Mooney has not been playing good at all. So Darnell Mooney is going to be my L. Now we are going to go back to our 1:00 games and talk about Dolphins-Ravens, the shootout of the week. 38-35. The Dolphins came out with the win. Cody, I think I have a pretty good idea of who your W is.
Yeah, this game was absolutely insane. It was battle of the ages between the 2 quarterbacks. Literally, Tua and Lamar were 2 of the highest scoring fantasy players. 2 quarterbacks both scored 50 points and then some change afterwards, which is absolutely crazy. And honestly, I've never seen a better Ravens team than now, let alone the Dolphins defense isn't the greatest. So let's say both teams' defenses aren't the greatest. So that's why we're able to kind of see such a, I guess you could say, college football-like game in terms of the amount of points being scored. So, but it's also really nice watching that. Tua did amazing. Him and Jalen Waddle, and as well as Tyreek Hill, their chemistry is absolutely amazing and arguably one of the best wide receiver duos in the league right now, apart from obviously Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Tua was definitely a little bit more quieter with Tyreek in the first half, but lit it up with the 2 tutties in the second half of the game, and it just went off from there. So that is going to be my W, and my L is going to be Mr. Mike Gesicki. Dude, gotta work on the gritty. Gotta work on the gritty, man. Like, all jokes on this one, but gotta work on the gritty. After that touchdown, dude, holy crap. gotta get Justin Jefferson on some lessons with you, and that's why he tweeted afterwards that
I mean,
said
that
he's
was
definitely gonna go home and practice it because he said it looked a lot better in the mirror, and
when I,
hopefully we'll see a better Gritty in week 3 if he's able to
when I
score.
saw that. I immediately thought it looked like me and you turned to each other and said, "What the hell was that?" It looked like a vampire trying to do it.
It looked like someone's dad out there.
He was so stiff. It was bad. A deserving L for the week because it was really bad.
Yeah.
That is really funny. So my win is going to be Jalen Waddle. I mean, you said Tua, but I'm just going to go Jalen Waddle because he was getting all the targets along with Tyreek, but Tyreek just ran past everyone. Waddle was getting more routes and getting more open, and I respect that more. So that's why I have Waddle at the win, as well as he got the game-winning touchdown. So that's why I have Jalen Waddle there. My L is going to be the Ravens defense simply because they give up 21 answer points, allowing a last-second drive and allowing Tua to get 465 yards on you, 6 touchdowns. Not saying Tua's a bad quarterback, but just saying, you got burned by the receivers. You got burned by a lot of people. Can't give up that 21-point lead. That's how you turn to the Raiders. So Ravens defense is going to be my L. And now we are going to move on to Tampa versus New Orleans, Cody.
Tampa versus New Orleans. All right. This was definitely a really fun game to watch as well. Not really statistically towards the actual game, but all the things that were going on outside of the game were probably more entertaining. I was cracking up at how hysterical Tom Brady was getting, and literally Gronk spiked one of the tablets at one point in the game. So you might be seeing a fine for that in the future. But literally just throwing all these obnoxious passes at Scotty Miller and then screaming his lungs off at him because he can't
pisses
catch
me
it.
off so much because there was one to Scotty Miller that was not a good throw, and he is screaming at him. I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, you're good. You're great. But take responsibility. Because that really made me upset.
Yeah, the Bucks were able to still walk away with the lead because there was one pick six because, hey, it's 2022 and Jameis Winston's still throwing touchdown passes to the Buccaneers. That pick six was definitely something to kind of solidify the game for the Buccaneers. I don't know what it is, but whenever the Saints and the Buccaneers clash for the past 2 or 3 years, it has been a shootout.
Into a UFC fight.
It's literally just a standoff between the two teams. I don't know what it is, but
it's always Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore.
Both teams forget how to play football when they go against each other, I feel like, because it's a low scoring game and it usually ends up in Brady just having a hysterical meltdown. But getting back on track, my W is going to be Mike Evans, literally just coming from the sidelines. Bruce Arians sent him in like a freaking hound dog and dropped the shoulder on Marshawn Lattimore after he thought he could talk crap to not only Bruce Arians, but also Tom Brady as well. And then even Leonard Fournette was kind of getting mixed in there, but Mike Evans for the dub, dropping the shoulder, showing him who's boss. Did cost him a suspension, but hey, it's all good.
Not only that, he had 65 receiving yards before he got ejected, and it was
he got ejected an entire quarter before the game was done, and he still had a really 65
yards. He still led the team in receiving.
Yeah, exactly. So really solid performance from Mike Evans before he got ejected, but I think he's now 3-0 against Marshawn right now, and that will be a good way to transition into my L, who is going to be Marshawn Lattimore, because
rocked.
Literally just got rocked because I think it was a play when he was guarding Scotty Miller or something like that, and there was just some words said, and there was a scuffle started.
Brady got upset.
Bruce Arians was next to him. They were kind of exchanging some words with each other, and Marshawn Lattimore was going up to Brady and Leonard Fournette. And when that happened,
and Mike Arians said, "Go get him, bud."
Yeah, Mike Evans literally from the sideline ran halfway across the field just to drop a shoulder on this guy. So took an L on that part because he just took an L.
Yeah, I mean, he got his ass rocked on national time. I don't know what was worse, him getting rocked or Mike Gesicki's gritty. That is the
I
That's
don't
going to be
know.
the question. What's worse,
I don't
Marshawn
think there's
Lynch
anything worse than that gritty, not
locked,
gonna lie.
or
That gritty was
Marshawn
horrendous.
or Mike Gesicki's gritty? That is a very, very good contest for worst play of the week. My W is actually going to be Mark Ingram, really, because he did step in very well, filling that Alvin Kamara role, because he was getting balls out of the backfield and he was running the ball very well. Had 6 yards per carry. He was doing very well while taking that Alvin Kamara absence. I felt like he did very well in filling that role. And then my L is going to be Jameis Winston because he threw 3 interceptions. I think he had more touchdowns to the Bucks this game than he did to his team. So that is never good. But as you said, 2022, and he's still throwing touchdowns to the Buccaneers. I mean, that is not good, not good, not good, not good. I thought he
No.
had his eye surgery. Apparently not. Threw 3 interceptions, so and ultimately led to their loss because it was a close game. Then he just kept turning the ball over. So that's why Jameis is going to be my L.
Hey, I
Moving
think you
on
might
to
need to borrow Rodrigo Blankenship's glasses next time he plays.
and, yes. And now moving on to our final matchup in our week 2 recap that we want to talk about. It's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Cody, I'm going to take the lead on this one because I have a lot to say.
All right.
Jalen Hurts was money coming out in the first half, already had 30 fantasy points in the first half. I just needed 10 more from him to win my game. He said no. As I said before, I'm bittersweet because I'm like, he played great, but I'm so greedy that I wanted to win, but I can't blame him. He played great. And then your dad benching Devontae Smith, who led the team in receiving yards. That had to hurt.
In his defense, he did get 0 points in week 1.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I bet you he'll start him this week.
Most likely, yeah.
Devontae Smith did good. Dallas Goedert did good. That offensive line by the Eagles did very good. Jalen Hurts looked very good rushing. Miles Sanders looked all right. Nothing too special. A.J. Brown looked good. Overall, the Eagles offense looked good. The Eagles defense looked even better. I don't know if it was Eagles defense looking great or Kirk Cousins just sucking ass, but which moves into my L because Kirk Cousins, was beyond careless with the football. All 3 of those interceptions were terrible. Threw it way under the ball to Jefferson, completely missed through the other ball to Jefferson, and then he threw the other ball too low, and the pass got jumped and picked. I mean, Kirk Cousins, not his finest performance, I must say, but what else can you expect from prime-time Kirk? So Kirk Cousins is going to be my L. So Cody, you can take it away now with the Eagles game.
Yeah, that game was like a superstar showdown, and we're going into week 3, and I'm still not gonna lie, kind of blown away at the Eagles still. They're literally ranked 4 now, and they are leading the NFC East, I believe. Might I add, 2 of the, I think 6 teams that are undefeated right now are from the NFC East. Who in the right mind would have think that the NFC East would be home to 2 undefeated teams?
The Giants, too. That's the crazy part.
Not even the Cowboys.
It's the Giants.
But I think if the Eagles keep this momentum up, they're definitely like late playoff contenders. I don't know where they pulled this team out of, but I'm here for it.
I think they can win the division without a doubt. I mean, they're talented.
No joke. Easily, yeah.
Amazing.
But the W for me is obviously going to be Mr. Jalen Hurts again, balling out like usual. And that was just an amazing game to watch. Hopefully they'll be able to keep up that momentum in week 3. My L is going to be Mr. Dalvin Cook. That game was, not going to lie, I kind of switched off it to watch the Bills game because I just could not stand to watch Dalvin Cook not get the ball. Turnover, Jalen Hurts scored another touchdown. It was just not a good night. Dalvin Cook literally got 4 points. He watched his rush attempts get more than 50% sliced in half, rushing for 6 attempts and only 17 yards. For a first-round draft pick in my RB1, that is atrocious.
Terrible.
Numbers. He hasn't even gotten a touchdown this year, and then we're going into week 3. So that is very unlike Mr. Dalvin Cook. And coming from his 20 rush attempts and 90-yard performance in week 1, I don't know what to expect week 3. Um, there was a report saying that Kevin O'Connell was definitely not impressed with Dalvin Cook's performance, and he's not blaming it on him. They're just saying that they need to give the ball to him a lot more because you can't get yards and touchdowns if you're not giving Dalvin Cook the ball. And I don't know if it was just the Eagles defense that game, but he was more than quiet and definitely let me down a lot this week.
I mean, yeah, had to be a rough one, especially for your first round pick. I know that. That is just the worst thing. That's the one thing that sucks is when your first round pick underperforms. I mean, there's not much you can do about it, and it really does suck. So, moving on, we actually have a new segment coming out right now, which is going to be called the 2-minute drill. And basically, what is going to happen is I'm going to name off the list of games that are happening in the week coming up, which in this case would be week 3. So, week 3, I'm going to ask Cody Browns, Steelers, for example, and then we will go through the entire week. And the thing why it's called 2-minute drill is because it's rapid fire. I'm going to tell Cody, who do you think you'll win? And he's going to give me a 5 to 10 second explanation on why you think they would win. Like, for example, he says Browns will win. I think the offense line will up that quick. And then we're moving on to the next one. So, Cody, we're going to put the timer on the clock and let's go with the 2-minute drill. Here we go. We got Browns versus Steelers. Who are you taking?
Browns, like you were saying, the offensive line and Jacoby Brissett should have a better performance.
Interesting. I took the Steelers. Bills versus Dolphins. Who are you taking?
Bills for a long shot. Their offense and defense are power weapons.
Agreed. Offense and defense is very, very strong. Moving on, Eagles v. Commanders.
Eagles for sure. They are 2-0 right now, and if their offense is rolling against what the Commanders are, I think they're going to dominate that game.
I'm going to take the Commanders here. I think Carson Wentz is going to have a day. Chiefs versus Colts.
I don't think there's really any explanation needed there. Chiefs for a long shot. Chiefs are a powerhouse as long as Patrick Mahomes is in the game.
I agree. I'm going with the Chiefs. Colts have looked rough. Lions v. Vikings.
I'm going to go for the Lions this time. With their performance against the Commanders, if they can keep that offensive motion, I definitely think that they'll be able to walk away with a win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions too, but the thing is, whenever we say Lions, they always end up losing, so who knows? Texans v. Bears.
Texans and Bears. I'm gonna shoot for the Bears. I don't think either team is good, but I think the Bears hopefully will have a better offense going into the game because the Texans defense isn't the greatest.
I'm going to go with the Texans here. I mean, Davis Mills, I thought, has looked pretty good, and that defense has looked so very strong. I think they're going to come away with the win. Bengals versus Jets.
I think the Bengals are going to win. They haven't been looking hot. Obviously, they're 0-2 right now, but hopefully the offense will be able to light some sparks up against a Jets defense that is kind of lacking right now.
I have the Bengals too. I think that this their coming out game. Raiders, Titans.
I'm going to go for the Raiders. Raiders and both Titans have had a rough start to both of their seasons, but the Titans just don't have the production rate that the Raiders are performing at right now, and I think they're just going to overwhelm them in that game in terms of offense.
I'm going to go Titans. I just don't trust the Raiders right now. Saints, Panthers.
Saints and Panthers. I think that the Saints are going to win. Baker Mayfield and the Panthers have not been looking promising whatsoever, and the Saints, I think, are going to be walking away with the win.
I have the Saints too. I do not trust Baker Mayfield, and I like that Saints defense more. Ravens versus Patriots.
I'm going to go with the Patriots. Only reason the Ravens really won last game because the Miami defense was not that great, and Patriots defense, like we know, is good. So I'm going to go with the Patriots.
I have the Patriots as well. I do think that the Patriots can outduel them. Jaguars, Cardinals.
Let's go with the Cardinals. I know Jacksonville had a pretty important game last week, but the Cardinals, if Kyler Murray can keep this momentum up, they're just going to keep scoring points on them.
I'm going to go with the Jags. Even though the Cardinals won against the Raiders last week, I was still not impressed with Kyler Murray and their offense. Rams. Oh, I made a mistake. Hold up. Rams versus Cardinals this game, Cody. Go ahead.
Rams versus Cardinals is the game?
Yeah, this is the Rams versus Cardinals.
Oh, let's do. I'm gonna take the Rams. They haven't had a solid start to the season, especially after winning the Super Bowl. You think they'd be killing it, but I'm gonna go with the Rams just because they have a lot deeper of a roster compared to the Cardinals.
I agree. I'm going to go with the Rams as well. Jaguars Cardinals was the or Jaguars Chargers was the last game. My apologies. Who do you got? Jags or Chargers?
Chargers all day. Justin Herbert, if he can escape that injury that he sustained in the last game, and if it doesn't bother him too much, Justin Herbert, and if Keenan Allen's going to be able to play as well, that's just going to be amazing for them.
I have the Jags. I just love the Jags too much. I'm going to take them. Packers versus Bucks.
I'm going to go with the Packers just for the sole reason because Mike Evans is suspended.
Fair enough. I have the Packers as well. I think A-Rod's going to have a great game. Falcons versus Seahawks.
That's a good one. I'm going to go with the Seahawks, even though they haven't really been looking that solid, at least in terms of last week, because the Niners killed them. But the Seahawks, I believe, have a better, I guess you could say, more consistent offense than what the Falcons have.
I'm going to go with the Falcons here. I trust Mariota more to do the things with his legs and be able to throw the ball all over Seattle's defense. 49ers, Broncos.
I'm going to go with the Niners, especially with Jimmy G under center. Maybe if they had Trey Lance, it would be a different story. But with Jimmy G under center and the astonishing defense that the Niners withhold, I definitely think that they're going to be able to outweigh the Broncos because Russell Wilson has not been looking hot so far.
I'm going to go with the 49ers as well. I trust Jimmy Garoppolo to overhandle the Broncos, and I agree. Russell Wilson not look good. And our final game, Cowboys versus Giants for a terrible Monday Night Football matchup. Who do you got?
God, I don't even know if I'm going to watch that. I think who's playing where?
I think it's in New York.
If it's in New York, then the Giants are probably going to win. If it was in Dallas, Dallas would probably win. But New York, if they can just keep those momentum up, that would be awesome for them. Daniel Jones is just so bad sometimes, it's hard to trust him.
I don't trust Daniel Jones, but I do trust Brian Dable, so I'm going to take the Giants for this one. And that wraps up our first segment of the 2-minute drill. We will be doing this every week just to get our predictions, and I will tally up our scores, Cody, to where at the end of the year, we will see who has the better record in predicting games. So that will be a fun competition. Fun competition between us. As moving into our final segment, we have our top 5 fantasy players for the week. We showed at the end of the episode last week. Didn't get to really talk about it. We're going to talk about it right now. I'm going to start off with my number 5. I have Lamar Jackson. Great game, over 100 rushing yards. He really, really showed out with his arm as well. Most people are like, well, he scored the most fantasy points. Why is he not your number 1? Simply because he's a quarterback, and I have more respect for non-quarterbacks who get more points. Who's your number 5?
I took a different approach to my top 5 this week. I literally just went off the sheer amount of points scored. So my number 5 was Amon-Ra St. Brown with 38.90 points. And for a wide receiver, that is absolutely amazing, especially on the Lions.
Yeah, on the Lions. That's what I'm going to get into when I have on my list. And then 4, I have Tua. Again, what I said about Lamar, great, looks great, scored a lot of points, but simply just because he's a quarterback, I have him down lower.
My number 4 was Tyreek Hill with a total of 40.5 points scored, having a superstar week just like he did last week, and he's just going to keep putting up these numbers as long as Tua just keeps giving him the ball. That's all I got to say.
Agree. Now with number 3, and I have the other receiver, I have Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle was just getting more open, in my opinion, and overall, that's why I have him above Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I did have an honorable mention for Jalen Waddle because I believe he's getting more targets than Tyreek, but Tyreek probably had more longer pass plays, which
Tyreek just ran down the field and caught it.
Exactly. And then my number 3 was Stephon Diggs. Him and Josh Allen are I'm gonna say the best duo, wide receiver quarterback duo in the NFL right now. So I had a 1-point lead going into my matchup. I had Dalvin Cook and he had Stephon Diggs. And in my mind, I was thinking it was fair game. But nope, this guy just drops 40 points. He got
with ease.
4 touchdowns.
3 or 4 and over 150 yards.
He basically just went ham, and the chance of me winning was blown out of proportion. So Stephon Diggs, honestly, super great receiver. So he's a number 3.
At 2, I have Stephon Diggs. I think he just played great. He was getting open, and he had a quiet first half too. And then he came out in the second half and just dominated. I mean, 3 touchdowns over 150 yards as a receiver, getting over 40 fantasy points. That's more than most people's quarterback, which is just ridiculous. So Stephon Diggs is my number 2.
Yeah, and then my number 2 is going to be Lamar Jackson, scoring 50.62 points. Him and a guy I'm getting into after this both had astonishing performances, and their numbers were just insane. So I'm just going to leave it there. Lamar did crazy.
And my 1 is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. Only reason I have him over Diggs is, even though Diggs may have had more points, is that Diggs has Josh Allen throwing to him, and Amon-Ra has Jared Goff. So with Amon-Ra's situation, along with DeAndre Swift there, well, Buffalo really not having a running back that is a solidified starter, I had Amon-Ra because he had more competition to play with and a more competent thrower than Josh Allen being a top 5 quarterback, which is why Amon-Ra St. Brown is my number 1.
Yeah, I put Tua Tagovailoa as my number 1 spot, outscoring Lamar Jackson by just a couple points, and he was on my bench that week, and I started Joe Burrow over him. So if I would have started Tua, that would have been a dub for me. So if the Bengals were not going against the Jets this week, Tua would be an instant put in, but I'm going to give Joe Burrow the benefit of the doubt. Starting from
one
my
more
third
chance.
week.
He's got one more.
But if I have Tua dropping 50 points on my bench, then he just needs to be started already. But
Absolutely.
He had an astonishing performance, and he's got 2 of the best receivers in the NFL right now, being able to get thrown to. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are both very trustable receivers in terms of like getting receptions from them. So if he's got notable receivers, then Tua's just going to keep balling out with them, like without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tua looked very good, and it's very exciting to see next week if this was a fluke or if he is going to be a astonishing quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. That is going to be very, very, very interesting to see. So that wraps up our top 5 fantasy top 5 fantasy players for week 2. And that is going to wrap up the end of this episode. I want to thank you for coming on again, Cody.
Of course. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. It's always fun talking football, and we're going to try and do this as much as we can. So with that being said, this is going to be the end of the episode. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.